Hamish, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Mate, we're here to talk about winning days, 20th anniversaries a couple of days ago. Before you know that, what are you doing these days? Is that Byron Bay in the background?
I'm in the sort of hinterland, not far from Byron. Yeah, so on like a 5 acre property, and
Oh.
yeah, it's pretty quiet. Lots of grass to mow around here.
You just joined the band, I believe it was after Highly Evolve, and it sounds like there were some crazy days leading up to sort of that year or two before actually recording winning days. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, like in a nutshell. So when I joined the band, Highly Evolved had just been recorded. The original drummer bowed out sort of halfway through those sessions, and there was a few different drummers finished that album off. And then I joined and was thrown straight in the deep end. Like when I joined, we did maybe 4 gigs in Sydney, and then I was on a plane to LA, and we played a show in LA, and then we flew to London, did 4 gigs in London. Like it was on from the get go. There was already quite a lot of buzz around the band, and had a big major label behind it. So yeah, it was like getting strapped into a catapult, and someone pulls a switch, off we go.
And you had a bit of a background before that, even like, so you were doing things. It wasn't as if this was your first gig. I think I sort of read up there's other things you did. So you weren't necessarily clean skin, but it must have been a bit of a bit of an adjustment.
Oh, it was the best possible adjustment. It was easy. I mean, what sort of set me up to do this and enjoy it was a couple of things. Like I went backpacking for a couple of years. So I'd been around the world. I'd spent time in London. I was comfortable flying and traveling, and that's something that not everyone enjoys doing. But I'd also played before I joined the Vines. I spent 2 years in a band playing like a 60s review. It was a show band. We played in casinos almost exclusively, but that was 6 nights a week. So that really straightened out my playing. Like a lot of it was to a backing track with a click track in my ear. So, and yeah, playing all the great 60s tunes, like a lot of Beatles, Stones, like all the great 60s tunes. So yeah, doing that 6 nights a week for a couple of years, that really set me up.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's a bit of a segue into a question I'm going to ask you, Hamish. 20 years on, what this album means to you, because it's one of my personal favourites of all time. But when it first came out, it got kind of 6, 7 stars out of 10, and I thought that was a bit low, really. I mean, I was an absolute massive fan. I'm still a bit of a fanboy, mate. I've actually got a tattoo on my shoulder of the Vines from back in the day, mate. So look, 20 years on, what does this album mean to you? Has it changed over time in terms of what you remember of it, and do you still play it? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, it's funny when you've recorded an album yourself. When you hear it, you're sort of reminded of what the recording sessions were like. And when I heard the most recent Vines albums, which I wasn't involved in, I heard it with fresh ears, and I got to appreciate how good the songs are. With Winning Days, like that was the first one that I played drums on, and it was my first proper studio experience. Really, I'd done some recordings, but this is at a high level with like proper American producers. And the studio we recorded in is Bearsville, which was built by Albert Grossman, who is Bob Dylan's manager, and he
Wow.
built it for Bob Dylan and the band who were based out. So it's in upstate New York, in
Wow.
Woodstock. And first day in the studio, it's a beautiful countryside studio, and walk in and there's a picture of Jeff Buckley's Grace on the wall, and I was like,
Yeah, wow.
we're in the right place. This is good.
Yeah.
Gee, not in Kansas anymore.
No, they had all the right gear, and I mean, it took a long time. Like we spent like 10 or 11 weeks, and only knocked out 11 songs, so it was quite slow and meticulous. And that was because Capitol Records, the label, expected a certain level of product, and they were happy to spend the money on it, basically.
Hamish, can you talk more about that in terms of what Craig was trying to achieve in terms of the whole, like a polished album? He came out to say that he wanted a real polished album. Do you think that was kind of, was that achieved? And in terms of what the record company were hoping to get out of the second album to what Craig initially was hoping through his kind of, the early demos and stuff of this album, what do you think?
Yeah, Craig loves the studio environment, and he loves it to be polished, and he's got an amazing ear. And if it was left up to me, I would have made it a bit more garage and a bit more raw, but he loves it that way. And that was also what the record label wanted. I mean, we're all right into the Strokes, and I love the sound of that first Strokes record, how garage it is, and deliberately so.
Yeah.
But no, this is the result that Craig really wanted. And the one thing he's amazing at in the studio is recording vocals, because we might rehearse the songs, and I've heard the song that many times, but when he starts layering all those harmony parts on it, it just adds this other dimension. And he hears it all in his head. Like, they're not always the most obvious harmony parts. He's got these counter melodies, and it's not always a third or a fifth. There's other intervals he's singing to. So yeah, that's it's vocals are a large part. For me, drums are wrapped up first, and then I'm on holidays.
Actually, you can actually tell that. Actually, yeah, like he's obviously things in his mind, right? I can actually tell that in those records, right? But I mean, I've been always fascinated about second albums too. Like, I mean, does it work where the executives sort of really scrutinise what is being done, or is it at the process whereby you produce what you produce and then it's just handed over?
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm sure the label was looking over our shoulder, but we were sort of kept isolated from that. So we were just living with the producer and the engineer, and yeah, no doubt they were sending the sessions back to LA for them to scrutinise. But we were never told about this. We never had the label honcho show up to the studio at all. We were just in this countryside doing our thing. But I know they had a clear idea of they wanted this to really be a hit album, and that's why it was made so polished, and they threw a lot of money at the videos that came after that as well. Yeah, so yeah, it was a good result. And the thing is, like, people talk about second albums, like you have your whole life to write the first one, and then the second one's got to be done in a short amount of time. But almost all the songs on Winning Days were already written before the first album as well. There's a whole, if you dig deep, you'll probably find all the old demos out there online. And I think everything except Evil Town had been written before Highly Evolved as well, around the same time.
So Craig basically had a whole suite of stuff ready to go for a few albums. But can we talk about what the feeling was with the band once the album was complete and you were ready to launch it? What was the feeling? Did you think it was going to go gangbusters? Were you a bit worried? Well,
You just reminded me of something. Like, the head of Capitol Records, Andy Slater, before it came out, he's like, "You guys better start looking at real estate." I was like, yes. Wasn't to be. Awesome. I didn't buy a house off the back of it, but that was there was some high expectations. Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about some of the singles, the chosen singles that were to come out of this. Obviously, Ride was going to be a front runner, and listening to the demo, that's really interesting compared to the finished product. But technically, the band released Fuck the World as the first single, but I believe, and you'll be able to tell me, this was just for Triple J. Is that right? It was released late 2003?
Yeah, there was a 7-inch white vinyl of Fuck the World that came out. Yeah, that was like the early release. And I think the strategy around how you promote an album, it's changed. Back then it was CDs, which was the main product. Now it's all digital. So yeah, that was a teaser. It was never going to be a mainstream radio hit because of the swearing, and probably the best song on the album in my mind. It's like heaviest Vine song there is. So yeah, that was the teaser to get people excited. Yeah, Ride was always going to be the first sort of single. So and then we pushed to have Winning Days as the second single. I think the label would have had Animal Machine, or we wanted people to know there was like that more, the gentler side to the Vines as well. It wasn't just a straight up thrashy sort of punk band. There was a bit more to it.
I was going to ask about Animal Machine, because I love that song. I was thinking, that possibly, was that in consideration? Or I guess the other ones that were released were reasonably obvious as well.
Yeah, look, Animal Machine would have been a third single had we made it that far, but by the time that would have happened, I think the wheels had fallen off the whole Vines touring machine, so that there wasn't a third single. We just had those two. But yeah, that would have been the next one for sure.
Oh, look, it's such a shame, because I personally think there could have been some other singles. I would have loved TV Pro to be a single, or even, She's Got Something to Say to Me. I think that's the perfect kind of pop song that could have cross-pollinated across all the different radio stations. But
yeah, that's a great shit too.
Oh, bloody oath it is. And that was written with Craig and Patrick, yeah?
Yeah, that was another one that was around for years before. We played that a few times live. On the Highly Evolved touring cycle. Like we'd go off. Like the set list was always pretty fluid. Like we'd write a fresh one every night, and then if we got called back for encores, we'd sort of make them up. And I was like, Craig, do that song. Like I love. She's got something to say to me. And yeah, they got a few runs live. So yeah, that's another cracking song for sure. That's a real, it's like pop, classic Vines, Craig kind of song. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like you've seen our questions, Hamish, because that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about now is how did the songs come across live to the audience? Obviously, you're going to have people just saying, fucking play Get Free, Get Free. But how did it, what was the initial reaction to it live?
The Winning Days songs?
The songs, yeah, when you were touring with them.
Yeah, the funny thing was, so the album release date got pushed back by 2 weeks. So we had a tour booked. It was this tour we did with Jet and the Living End around the States. It was a funny one. So it was a great tour. Like it was a party animal tour. But because the album got pushed back 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of that tour, the album wasn't out. So we're playing all these songs that people haven't even got access to. There wasn't, internet streaming. It wasn't leaked like it would be now. So that was a bit weird. But yeah, Ride was the standout. Fuck the World was always the last song of the set, where typically the guitar would go through the drum kit. So that was always exciting. Animal Machine was a favorite for me for sure. I love that. It's a real heavy, groovy kind of song. But yeah, with all the acoustic ones also got a run as well. Like about half the set was the slower songs too. But yeah, the heavy ones went over better in a live situation for sure.
Just I'm curious about this. The sort of Autumn Shade 2. Like was that wasn't just written just in response to I'm wanting an Autumn Shade 2 and just writing literally Autumn Shade 2, or was there always a comparative piece?
BJ, are you aware that there's actually 4 Autumn Shade songs?
I actually am not. There you go. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. So
yeah, and I think there's a 5th one in the works too. So that's a question for Craig. I mean, I like that. I don't know another band that's sort of had that sequence of songs with a common title. They're different songs, but I think that's really cool.
I was just going to say the B-side that was released. B-side, the extra song that was released, "Drown the Baptist." That is a great song. How close was that to making the cut of the album?
I don't know. That one had been around for a long time as well, and recorded it. I think that one was done in Australia.
Okay.
We'd had a few cracks at recording that. It's funny, like some songs, I think after a while they lose some of their mojo, and that one was better earlier. And the more we recorded it, the more times we did it, it seemed to lose a bit of its magic somehow. It still is such a great song, but you hear the demo of that, it's just got something else with it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that didn't make the cut. I think when we went to Bearsville, we only recorded the 11 songs that are on the record. There was no extras done there. So that was from a different session back in Australia.
Yeah, okay.
That was probably a conversation between the producer and the label head of like which songs he wanted. And there was a couple other songs we really wanted to push for. There was like Blues Riff, and what was the other one? Another sort of heavy one that didn't make the grade.
Okay.
That you can find on the demos. Yes, there's a few songs that didn't make it, which I wish they had.
Oh man, I've seen most of the demos. I love it. A couple of whiskeys late at night, going through Vine's back catalogue, mate. It's absolutely brilliant.
So, I mean, I don't know. I take this as the first conversation about Winning Days, and it just clicked over the 20 years. But do you get people coming up to you about this particular album?
There's fans out there. There's people that love that record. I've seen a guy with a big chest tattoo of the whole the whole Winning Days album artwork. Yeah, there's people that love that. The vinyl, there's a vinyl of it. A buddy of mine's got the vinyl, and he's crazy about that. So yeah, this one resonates with a lot of people, definitely.
I was going to say about the tattoo, because Al here has got a Vines tattoo, whether that's a sort of a usual thing or not, but it sounds like
you, BJ, got him before you, mate.
I've got to see it now. Let's have a look.
Yeah, go.
Man, we've got a lot of ladies that watch your show, so I've got a wife, man. I've got to be careful. So.
Oh, well, jeez. I thought you were bringing it out, but anyway.
So let's talk about the fact you're back in the band, mate. Now, this is huge news. So both you and Ryan return. What are you going to give our fan? What do we got, mate? What's going on?
Oh, there is some new music in the works. I can't wait to get it out. I just sort of needs to be finalised and finished, and then work out what the best way to release it is. I can't see the Vines, unfortunately, being a major touring act. There might be the occasional sporadic show, but I mean, we haven't played a show in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
But yes, there is new music. And Craig was always more excited about the studio stuff than the live stuff anyway. That the touring really wore him down. But, you know, he gets so focused when he's recording, and, you know, that's his happy place. So can't wait for people to hear what's coming out next. There's some new tunes.
Geez. Mate, we can't wait. BJ and I were talking about it, actually. Like, you know, these great bands, it doesn't really matter if they tour anymore, but keep producing albums, they last forever. And I'm personally excited, mate. I've seen a couple of leaks of 30-second snippets of the songs coming out, mate. I'm excited. If you were to pick an album that it might be kind of sounding a little bit like, what would you say?
It's probably more in the vein of Vision Valley, I would say.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, it's been written by Craig by himself, and when I heard it, I was like, man, let's make this happen. This is really cool. So, yeah, that's probably the nearest thing I would compare it to.
If there's Dope Train Part 2, you've made my year, mate. I'm stoked.
I can't give away too much at this stage. I want it to be a surprise.
Fair enough.
That's all right. We'll be waiting here.
There is an Autumn Shade 5.
Autumn Shade 5 is going to be... Well, there we go.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's mental. That is so awesome.
It's probably the standout for me. I heard that and it gave me chills, gave me goosebumps. It's incredible.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I'm speechless. We're speechless here at Indie Miners. We don't often get that, so that's
there you go. It's a scoop for you. There's the scoop.
There's scoop for Indie Miners. Hey, there we go.
I do want to just finish with, I'm about to just crack a beer. I'm just a little bit frustrated. I've run out of my favourite beer, actually, Skinny Blonde.
Oh, no.
Me too. I've run out of that too. That was the good old days, yes.
Man, tell us on a lighter note, what happened there? A little bit of controversy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I was hanging out with some guys in Bondi. I was living in Sydney at the time, and it was when the Vines weren't doing much. So after sort of Vision Valley, there wasn't much touring going on. I've got a background. I've got a degree in chemical engineering. And if you've been to university, you know that engineers generally just study beer drinking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a bit of a beer nerd. So going to the States really got me going when I discovered hops and everything else. Not the Skinny Blonde was one of those beers, but yeah, sitting around with some buddies one day. It was before craft beer was a thing, and we decided to start a beer company, basically. And we did it. So we came up with a concept. We developed a recipe. It was sort of based on, I think Asahi was the nearest thing. We like those Japanese easy drinking lagers. And then we put a pinup girl on the label. And more than that, the pinup girl, we have worked out there's a magic kind of ink that they use it on the Coors cans, like the mountains turn blue when it's cold. Same with this one. The girl's bikini was red when she was cold, and then when you finish the beer, the bikini would vanish. This is our point of difference, and it also got us a lot of free press, which is also the objective. Yeah, so we ran that for a few years. It was tough because we didn't have a lot of capital behind it. It was we didn't own our own brewery. We were using other people's breweries, and yeah, we ran it for quite a few years on a sniff of an oily rag until I don't know. We were ahead of our time in terms of craft beer. We were always battling pubs to try to put it on tap, and they're like, well, we've got VB and New and Coopers. Like, there's no room for you, buddy. Like, it was before there was any craft beer in the world, or in Australia. So, yeah, it was a bit of a battle. It was a good experience, but in the end, yeah, we wrapped it up. It wasn't making a whole lot of money. So we pulled stumps on that. Had we kept it going, who knows? Could have been billionaires by now.
Thank you very much, Hamish. This has been absolutely astounding for you to come on and have a beer with us and talk about the old days. It's good.
Yeah, the good old days, man. What a time. So, can't believe it was 20 years.